Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. I'm Jesse Cofield. It's time for Mic'd Up Monday, presented by Wrangler. Some sounds from around NFL Sunday. And fellas, Kirk Cousins' season is almost certainly over, okay? He exited the game on Sunday in the fourth quarter with an injury that looked a lot like a torn Achilles tendon. And then afterwards, head coach Kevin O'Connell confirmed, that the team fears that it is an Achilles injury.
We are fearing. Currently, he's being evaluated and will be into tomorrow. We are fearing an Achilles injury. The severity of that, I do not know at this point, but I know that's what our fear is in the moment, and we'll confirm that as soon as possible. Thinking of Kirk, our locker room, every single player in our locker room. Thinking about our leader, our guy right now, and I'm just so proud of him. Proud of the way he's played all season long.
I mean, guys, Vikings win, lose Cousins. The locker room was incredibly somber after this because obviously it's a huge talent loss, but it's also an emotional loss of their leader.
And a loss at a time where the Vikings started to feel some semblance of hope again for this season. Right. Remember the skid they had started on, so much of it tied to just really bad fumble luck and some things there. But you had an offense that had been cooking and now had finally been matched by the defensive effort. You did a great win in the division over the Green Bay Packers. But, Dad, you know this feeling all too well when you see this happen to this caliber of player who entering Week 8 led the NFL in touchdown passes, was second in passing yards, and even in this game had 274 yards and 2 more touchdowns until he went out with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. As a player and the rest of that team, Jaren Hall, your backup quarterback's a young player out of BYU. Yeah. That's not going to be the kind of thing, even when you get Justin Jefferson back eventually, that has you in the contention that you thought you might have been this year.
Without question, they're a team that feels like they were on the right path. They've now won 3 in a row. Now we'll see what Detroit does tonight in their Monday night game. Could they fall another, loss closer to Minnesota? But you're right. As you mentioned, in 91, when we saw Randall Cunningham get his knee blown out a year, we thought we were really going to do something. The air just deflates out of you. You mentioned where he is. He's second in quarterback rating behind Tua as well, tied for touchdowns, I believe, with 18 with Tua. So but we've seen big numbers out of him, and we've seen this team do well in the regular season, but they're not going to do it without him. So as much criticism as he and that team gets about, they're always, maybe now last year was an exception, a little more than 500. They can make the playoffs, but then they lose in the first or second round. They can never get over the hump.
The criticism was you brought him there to get you over the ceiling that you received, and they haven't done it.
But talk about him being gone this year. His deal is up and not being back. And now all of a sudden you were making this little bit of a run, and you're like, wait a minute, did all those plans go on hold? But now I don't think so, because it's an Achilles. So you're talking at least, we'll see the miraculous Aaron Rodgers and what
I can say. I mean, he was out there putting weight on that thing, throwing pregame in a way that wowed a lot of people.
But I also don't think that they were planning on bringing him back next year in Kirk Cousins. So,
well, that's the complicating part here is we had spent the first half of the season trying to trade Kirk Cousins by the deadline. And as that comes up tomorrow, that's obviously wasn't going to happen based on the way that he was playing. It probably wasn't realistic to begin with. But now going in an offseason where he is not going to be contracted after this year, what does his future look like? That looked like a guy that was in line to maybe get himself another big-time payday.
Somewhere else,
either somewhere else or there. Now you wonder, are the Vikings able to bring him back on a more manageable deal here? Are they going to be in range if this season goes out of control? Or now all of a sudden you in the range to go and maybe pick a quarterback in this draft near the top of the draft and try and secure your future post-Kirk Cousins for the first time now and broach that subject?
It seems like the way they're going to have to go, because would they even be ready for next season? At this point. So it seems like they have to prepare for the next.
Yeah, I think it's an invitation for the Vikings to turn the page. It's just unfortunate in the way it happens, because Kirk Cousins has been nothing but a consummate pro. He's been nothing but a great ambassador for the sport on and off the field. And so you do hope personally for the guy, however it works out, that this isn't the last you've seen of him as starting quarterback, because he's been playing really compelling football over the last really year and change now, going from last year into this season. So wish him well, but obviously that looks like bad news for the Minnesota Vikings. Jesse, what do we got up next here?
Yeah, we had 2 guys getting their first career NFL win. So let's start with Bryce Young, completed 22 of 31 passes for 235 yards and a touchdown in Sunday's 15-13 win over the Texans. And guys, he felt pretty good about it.
It's definitely an exciting feeling. As we know, wins aren't easy to come by in this league. And it's great to get on the board, great to get one. And, right now, obviously, we're fresh. Everyone's enjoying it, and we're super, super happy about it. But it's a lot of excitement. But at the same time, right now is the time for us to enjoy it and have fun. But tomorrow we come back and watch the film. And there's a lot of stuff that we still can get better at, still can improve at. And, we don't want to be the team that got a win on week 8. This is, we have to keep building off of this. And that's a long journey. That's a long road. And that's going to come with the work that comes throughout the week and we continue to build off of. So right now, a lot of excitement. But, we're going to have to turn the page on this and just like any other week, make sure we keep getting better.
Guys, matched up with Stroud, how badly did Bryce Young need to get this win to prove he was the right pick here?
I was going to say, man, there were a lot of narrative things that I don't think were an accurate reflection of the quarterback. But, Dad, you even kind of hinted at it last week, this idea that you and a lot of other people had C.J. Stroud as the quarterback. You would have taken number 1 overall. The Good Vibes Texans had been such a great story during the first quarter to half of the season. Bryce Young, that looked like a young man who was incredibly relieved right now. If faith is belief without sight, they had to have a lot of faith in Bryce Young early on in this season without a lot of weapons around him. You still in this game are largely relying on 33-year-old Adam Thielen to bail you out of these situations. That was huge for them.
And Eddie Pinheiro kicks the game winner with time hitting zeros. They were celebrating like it was a Super Bowl. And you know what? Good for him. It was their first
and remember, win. Eddie Pinheiro had to kick it. There were back-to-back penalties on the Texans.
Yeah.
And so they had to re-kick it after they had made the game-winning field goal because it was unabated to the quarterback. And you and I are both sitting here like, what if he misses this kick?
Could you imagine? It would have been Panthers, right? Not getting a win and getting it. But the best thing about it at the end of the game there, the kick and that sequence was amazing. But they drove the ball 15 plays, 86 yards, 6 minutes and 17 seconds off the clock on that final drive. So kudos to that offense, putting that drive together to get him in position for a game-winning field goal.
Same Bryce Young that we've seen, by the way. Yeah. Poised, composed,
cool, collected,
and managed to make that happen now. And again, we talked about their schedule. You look out, Colts coming up, Bears, Cowboys are going to be a tough out, but then Titans, Buccaneers, Saints, you get back into that NFC South schedule, a little bit less daunting than the road they went through at the beginning portion of this season. I'm not saying they're going to start to light the league on fire, but I think you're going to have more bankable moments for Bryce Young, the quarterback, to try and get early on in his career. But Jesse, we got to get to the real rookie story of the weekend here, a coming out party for the ages in Tennessee.
Geez, we didn't really know what to expect from Will Levis, right? So Ryan Tannehill's injured. He gets his first career start. He goes out and dazzles 4 touchdowns. This was my favorite story of the weekend. His family absolutely going insane in the stands. It was really something to see. And then he goes out in the post-game presser and defends a teammate.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that did their jobs today that won us that game. I mean, 7 being one of them, Malik. Really, that left a sour taste in all of our mouths when we were hearing those boos when he was coming on the field. And we got to know that he's going to be a big part of us going forward to win games. So let's just come correct next time as fans and treat him correctly.
Let's just come correct. I mean, come on, that's a teammate.
Yeah, that was pretty cool and not surprising with him. He's a player that has that kind of edge to him. And Mike Vrabel had said it was going to be more of a platoon style with Malik Willis, who went in there, fumbled on the first play of the game, so a bit of an inauspicious start. But, I mean, what can you say about Will in this performance? DeAndre Hopkins had to be looking up and praying to whatever deity, thanking whatever deity he worships, because this was manna from heaven for him and for DeAndre Hopkins fantasy owners.
And I was just going to say, anybody that had it in their team yesterday, incredible. So, Now the question is, listen, they in Houston, after Houston's lost, are 2 games out from Jacksonville, who got a win yesterday. Is it Will Levis time? You just putting him in there? Tannehill coming back from the ankle injury. You know, like we've talked about in a couple of these divisions, you're hanging right there. So these next probably 4 to 5 games is really going to kind of clear the picture of what's going on. Do you go with the rookie and see what you have there, or do you put the veteran back in there to saying we still kind of have a shot at this?
I think we always talk about it's about earning more reps. I think Will Levis earned the right to be the guy they trot out next week and to see what happens. And I don't think at this point you've got to put anything in pen if you're Tennessee, but you drafted him for a reason you did. And I think you want to start to get a look and see, can we get more of this consistently? Spoiler alert, he's going to come back down to earth. But in the meantime, relish this, Titans fans. By the way, we will get to an important stat about the uniforms Tennessee was wearing in just a little bit.